implementation of security automation in the SOC. My name's Ali Murtaza. I'm the lead consultant at SIRP. Joining me today are Omar, our CTO, and also our co-founder, and Damian, who's our Chief Strategy Officer. We'll start with a quick presentation followed by a Q&A session throughout the webinar. Feel free to send your questions via chat, and we'll try to cover as many questions as possible, depending on the time we have available. Please allow me to hand over the session to Omar, and we can get started. Omar, over to you.
Thank you, Ali. First of all, welcome everyone to today's webinar. Very excited to be presenting today. Today, we will be sharing some insights and practical steps for implementing security automation in your SOC. This is what we will cover in today's webinar. We will start with an introduction and overview of security automation, what it is and why it's crucial today. Then we will look at the current challenges faced by security teams and how automation can help. Furthermore, we will also discuss the benefits of security automation and address some of the common misconceptions surrounding it. Then we will cover some of the components of security automation and what you should be expecting from a security automation tool. Finally, we will discuss some steps for developing a strategy and effective implementation in your environment. We will end this webinar with a Q&A session, so please feel free to share your questions as we move along. We all know the cyber landscape is more complex than ever. We have endless supply of security products, and cyber threats are growing both in volume and sophistication, making it incredibly hard for security teams to keep up. And this is where security automation helps. It improves SOC efficiency by handling repetitive tasks and time-consuming tasks, and allows analysts to focus on more strategic activities. We'll dive deeper into what those activities are. But with automation, SOC teams get quicker detection, investigation, and remediation of incidents. Now let's look at the definition of security automation and what is its scope in a SOC. Security automation uses technology to perform tasks with minimal human intervention. For example, in this context, detecting, investigating, and responding to cyber threats, this is what we will be automating. In a SOC, when we talk about automation, it includes gathering threat intelligence, performing incident response, doing vulnerability management, and even compliance reporting. Now you can understand automating these processes makes SOCs more efficient and capable of managing more incidents without needing more staff. The next thing to understand is the difference between orchestration and response. So as modern security systems become more complex, involving various hardware and softwares across hybrid environments, the prospect of managing all these systems and security controls often grows beyond the capacity of security teams. Handling these processes would take some serious automation. The kind of automation that can take a bunch of security controls and make them all work together without user interference. This is what's called orchestration and automation, the two components of a SOC platform. So again, what's the difference between the two? Automation involves automating individual tasks like scanning of vulnerabilities or blocking malicious IPs or even getting a reputation of a hash. Basically, individual actions executing repetitively. On the other hand, orchestration goes further. It involves coordinating multiple automated tasks across different security controls for a comprehensive response. So orchestration brings multiple security controls together and enabling them to work together. So automation handles specific tasks, whereas orchestration integrates them into a single cohesive workflow. To understand the significance of security automation, where we came from, we need to look at how it was evolved over time. From the early days, we know where security focused on perimeter defenses such as firewalls and antivirus. These defenses were reactive and designed to address only the known threats. As we moved along, the focus shifted from being more proactive measures like IDS and SIM platforms. Large organizations also employed solutions like vulnerability management, next gen firewalls, DLPs, user behavior analytics, and sandboxing. And now, currently, we are in the era where automation and orchestration plays a crucial role. The increasing complexity and volume of threats require us to adopt advanced technologies to keep up. So this timeline that you see on your screens, this timeline highlights the ongoing efforts to stay ahead, where security teams now are leveraging cloud technologies with proactive monitoring as well as automation. So before discussing the benefits of automation, what are the current challenges that SOC teams face? The first one being alert fatigue. One of the significant challenges faced by the SOC teams is alert fatigue, overwhelming the SOC analyst by the sheer volume of alerts generated by security tools. We have endless supply of security controls generating high number of security alerts every day. It's not humanly possible to handle all those alerts manually. And this constant influx of security alerts can lead to important incidents being overlooked, and this can also cause burnout among the analysts. So for this reason, effective prioritization of alerts is crucial to ensure that critical threats are addressed promptly while minimizing the noise of less significant alerts at the same time. The second challenge that SOC teams are facing is many SOCs operate with limited budgets and shortage of skilled personnel. Now, the cybersecurity skill gap is a well documented issue. It's difficult to find and even more difficult to retain qualified analysts. These budget constraints can limit the ability of SOCs to operate effectively. And this challenge demands the need of prioritization for critical security activities. Thirdly, the cyber threats are becoming more sophisticated and difficult to detect and mitigate. Attackers are using advanced technologies such as multi stage attacks, zero day exploits, and sophisticated social engineering attacks as well. So, this growing complexity requires SOC to stay constantly updated and adopt advanced detection and response strategies to effectively combat these threats. Finally, SOCs often rely on a variety of security tools and technologies in their environment, each control serving a different purpose. Now, integrating these dispersed tools to work together seamlessly can be a challenge. Lack of integration can lead to data silos, inefficient workflows, and even missed correlation between security events. Addressing integration challenges is crucial as well for creating a cohesive and effective cybersecurity strategy to leverage the strengths of each tool within the SOC effectively. Now we went through the challenges. Now let's have a look at some of the benefits of security automation and how it helps SOC teams. The first benefit of automation is that it provides efficiency and speed while reducing the time to detect and respond to incidents, which is very crucial. By automating repetitive tasks, incidents are addressed faster. This allows analysts to handle more alerts in less amount of time, while also reducing burnout. The second benefit of automation is that it ensures consistency and accuracy by eliminating human error. While manual processes are prone to errors, especially when dealing with large volume of data and complex incidents. Now, automation minimizes these errors by ensuring tasks are performed accurately and consistently every time. Automation also allows for creation of standardized response in the form of playbooks for common threats. You can design the playbooks to automate your use cases. This ensures that incidents are handled in a uniform manner, reducing variability and improving overall response effectiveness. Another significant benefit of security automation is scalability. As volume of alerts and incident grows, automation enables SOC to manage them without needing more staff. So increase in the alerts would not be directly proportional to the amount of security analysis that you require in your SOC with automation. Automation can process and analyze large amount of data quickly, ensuring no alerts get unnoticed. Automation supports the scaling of SOC operations efficiently as the organization grows and threat landscape evolves. The security operations can expand seamlessly to meet new demands. Finally, let's also discuss the cost saving benefits of security automation. While there is an initial investment in automation technologies and there are efforts required to get it up to the speed, but the long term cost savings are substantial. So, first of all, automation reduces the need of additional staff. It lowers the cost of associated with manual error correction and incident response delays. By automating your routine tasks, your known use cases, SOC analysts can focus on high value activities such as threat hunting, strategic planning, um, and improving security posture. This not only optimizes resource utilization, but also enhances the overall effectiveness of your SOC. Now, let's have a look at some of the misconceptions surrounding security automation and orchestration. The first misconception we have is that security automation is designed to replace human analysts. In reality, security automation is meant to assist and augment the capabilities of human analysts, not replace them. It handles repetitive tasks, letting analysts focus on complex and strategic activities. And this human and machine collaboration is something that enhances SOC efficiency and effectiveness. So it's not about replacing the human analyst, it's about augmenting them, helping them do more in less amount of time. Another misconception is that once automation tools are implemented, they require no further attention. It doesn't work like that. Automation is not a one time setup. It needs continuous maintenance, updates, and tuning. It requires efforts to keep it optimized. Because as threats evolve and as your environment is changed, the automation system requires updates to stay effective and deliver optimal performance and protection. Because you might have new use cases that require creation of new playbooks to automate those use cases. So it's an ongoing effort. The final misconception that we will dispute is that security automation is only beneficial for large enterprises because of their extensive resources and complex infrastructures and budgets and all. Uh, for us, security automation benefits organizations of all sizes. So small and medium-sized businesses can enhance their security posture without the need of hiring large number of analysts in their team. And hiring itself is a big challenge. Automation solutions are scalable and can be tailored to meet the specific needs and budgets of various types of organizations. Now, this scalability ensures that even smaller organizations can implement effective automation strategies to improve their security operations. So it's not just for the large enterprises, but medium and small size businesses can benefit from these automation tools as well. Now, let's have a look at the key components to consider in an automation platform. For us, the automation platform should provide coverage for an end-to-end process or processes in your environment. For example, in this diagram, you can see where SIRP source sits in your security infrastructure. So SIRP is able to ingest data from various SIM platforms or even the EDRs. The security controls that are generating the data, it goes into the SIM platforms, and SIRP is able to integrate with these SIM platforms to ingest the alerts. At the same time, SIRP is able to also integrate with vulnerability assessment tools like Rapid7, Tenable, Qualys, number of different vulnerability assessment tools, and it ingests the data. And finally, it also integrates with number of threat intelligence tools. So in a single platform, you are able to process the data from all these different security controls or different types of security controls. And once this data is ingested into the platform, SIRP also has a asset management module which allows you to define your assets, give a certain value to those assets, and after having all this information, it fuses this information to do the prioritization, which we call SIRP security score. So we talked about the need of prioritization. We discussed there is a lot of noise in your environment. This prioritization helps you handle the more important alerts first. On the right hand side, you can see that SIRP integrates with number of enrichment tools like VirusTotal, Microsoft Active Directory, Alien Vault to augment the data. So, for example, if an analyst has an IP address, a reported potentially malicious IP address, SIRP is able to pull the reputational information of that IP address from various tools automatically without human intervention. Similarly, not just with enrichment, SIRP is also capable to perform response actions. It can block an IP on a firewall, it can block a hash on your EDR, it can even quarantine a machine. So you are able to get the data, enrich the data, and as well as create a response around your use case. Finally, the analytics SERP offers rich dashboards and reports along with manual workflows for the analyst to perform manual tasks. So to summarize, the automation platform should be providing end-to-end coverage for all the SOC processes that you have. It should provide dashboards and reports for different audiences in your organization. It should allow SOC teams to track SLAs and KPIs. It should also allow to run the case management, end-to-end case management. For example, there is a new vulnerability identified, and SOC team needs to invite another team to do the remediation. The case management should allow them to do it. For example, in SERP, you can bunch together multiple vulnerabilities or threat intel into a single case and then invite another team to do the resolution. Um, then the SORT platform or automation tool should be able to leverage artificial intelligence and machine learning to even speed up this process even further. The platform should be able to utilize generative AI to help analysts with their processes and speed up their investigation and response. And finally, in parallel to automated playbooks, the platform should also be capable of providing manual workflows for the analyst. It should be able to define certain tasks for analysts to perform manually as well. It should come predefined with the set of playbooks that you should be able to customize based on your environment. Similarly, it should be able to define workflows for different type of incidents so that as soon as alert is ingested, as soon as the alert pops up in the tool, the SOC team should know that this is the flow that should be followed. Now, there will be certain tasks that the tool will be performing automatically. Then there will be tasks that your security analyst would perform manually. So these are all the things that should be considered while procuring or considering an automation tool. Finally, before we end this presentation and move to the Q&A session, let's discuss some of the key steps for a successful implementation of security automation in your organization. So start with assessment and planning. Define clear goals for your security automation initiative and identify the workflows and processes that can benefit from automation. So you need to plan ahead. You must first assess the existing tools, processes, and skill sets within your SOC to determine where automation can have the most significant impact. And then you develop a detailed plan that outlines the goal, scope, and timeline for your automation initiative. And this is all to be done while you are considering employing or procuring an automation tool. Another important thing that I would like to highlight here is that uh, automation implementation should happen gradually. You need to prioritize high impact areas first. Try to get quick wins. Allow time for testing and refinement at every step. This will result in less disruptions and ensure a smooth transition to automated workflows. So, employ a phase wise approach to automation. Next, you need to identify which security controls and processes will benefit most from the automation. So, what it takes is you need to identify most repetitive and time consuming tasks in your SOC, which can be automated. Ensure that the controls you select align with your overall security objectives and compliance requirements as well. Step 3 of implementation process is integration and testing. Now the first thing you did, you identified the need, you created a plan, then you identified the list of technologies and your processes that you want to automate. In the step 3, now you want to start the integration and testing process. And this is basically, you start this step by integrating your security controls one by one. This involves configuring the tools to work together, checking connectivity, and conducting thorough testing of automation workflows in a controlled environment just to identify any issues or redundancies. During this process, if you find something that needs to be fixed, so make necessary adjustments to the playbooks uh, and even the integrations to ensure that the automation processes are efficient and effective. Step 4 is training and skill development of your team. Now, it is essential to the success of your automation initiative. Educate your SOC staff on how to use and manage your SOC platforms, as well as identifying new use cases and how well those use cases can be automated. Ask your consultants, automation consultants, to provide comprehensive training to ensure that your teams understand the capabilities as well as the limitation of the product. Encourage continuous learning and development to keep your staff up to date. Now, the key part is uh, identifying these use cases and be able to automate those use cases, identifying between a good use case and a bad use case. So you cannot automate every process that is happening in your SOC. You need to identify and prioritize and then automate accordingly. Um, I I have a example that I would like to share. Deploying an automation platform is like buying a sports car and handing over its keys to your SOC team. Now that's not good enough. The team also needs driving lessons to drive that sports car. Similarly, your team needs to learn the platform to operate it effectively. identify between good and bad use cases, identify how to automate those use cases, and talk to the consultants if any further learning or any further customization or any new integration is required, which is not available in the platform out of the box. The final step is continuous monitoring and improvement. Regularly review and update your playbooks to ensure that they remain effective and relevant. Monitor the performance of automated processes and make adjustments as necessary to address any new challenges or opportunities. Another key aspect is defining and using KPIs to track progress and effectiveness of your SOC team and overall automation process. For example, you can track mean time to detect, you can track mean time to respond, mean time to investigate. These are the things that allow you to improve on your existing processes. You measure these things to improve the existing processes. Review the KPIs. First of all, identify and create these APIs to assess the impact and identify areas for improvement, ensuring alignment with your goals and desired outcomes. This and you should be capable of defining these KPIs within your platform so that, again, automating certain process to save time, you shouldn't be spending time to calculate these KPIs manually. Your platform should be capable of defining these KPIs and giving you reports against these KPIs so that you can track the progress and identify any improvement areas that you need in your environment, not just with respect to security automation, speeding up the process, but also identifying areas where your own SOC processes can be enhanced. Communication between the teams could be enhanced. Response times could be enhanced. Um, Things like that. So this concludes our quick presentation. Now we will transition into the Q&A session where we will like to address any questions you may have regarding security automation and our discussion today. Now I'll hand it over to Ali. Ali, over to you.
So we've received some interesting questions um, during our presentation. One of the questions that we have for Damien is, what are some of the common pitfalls to avoid when implementing security automation in the SOC? Over to you.
So at a high level, it goes back to what Omar was saying about preparation. Before you just launch the software and start building, it's really good to sit back with the team and try to map out some of the key top use cases and how you're going to instrument those. There's always a top 3 among every SOC team that I've encountered, and these are repetitive tasks that they just don't want to have humans involved with every day. So that's what I usually recommend, is to avoid those traps, is coming up with the top 3, prioritize those with the largest at the top, and then those will be your first key drivers.
See. I have another question for Umar. You mentioned prioritization. Can you elaborate further on this in terms of security automation and its implementation?
Yeah. So as we discussed that it's not humanly possible to analyze the large amount of data that security teams are receiving every day. We have endless supply of security products, and we are finding new products every year. Each security control is generating number of different alerts, and it's not humanly possible to handle all those alerts. And with that, you could even miss some of the important incidents or alerts, and that could have drastic impact on your security operations. For the same reason, what SIRP does is that it not just look at the data ingested in silos. For example, you get the data from SIM platforms, you get the data from vulnerability management tools as well as threat intelligence. So there is a lot of data that SIRP is looking at. What it does smartly is that it fuses that information with asset information and risk information of the organization, and we are able to create this score which we call SIRP security score. So what S3 does is that it basically calculates a security score by fusing in these assets and risk information of the organization. So for example, if there is an alert on a receptionist workstation and at the same time there is an alert on a mission critical system or CEO workstation, now this score would tell you what is more important to handle at that point in time. It can be either of them, depending on the situation. But this score would help security analysts to prioritize the responses, rather than handling every alert that is coming in their buckets. So that's why the prioritization is important. And we employ this risk-based approach where we consider the assets and asset value, um, to 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 create this score and track it over a period of time. So organizations are able to see the current snapshot of how well their SOC is performing, what are the current, um, some burning issues that they need to handle at this point in time, and how well they are performing over a period of several weeks or months. So this is why prioritization is really important, so that analysts don't miss out on the more critical alerts. And it all drives from the contextual information of the organization that we gather in the form of assets and risk information.
Thank you, Umar. I have another question for Damien. Could you provide us with key examples of any specific tasks within a SOC or some workflows or use cases that can be automated to improve efficiency?
Really good question. It's hard to be as specific because most SOCs will have a slightly variable framework on what they consider being their kind of key activities or use cases. But some of the most common examples are simply adding context and using automation to add context to further enrich alert data as it comes in. There are responses to potential email phishing attacks, which are very common. So what flows through the platform is you'll see lots and lots of hopefully curated alerts, and then sometimes you can send bi-directional information back to the SIM, the endpoint, whatever the software is, and then further enrich whether or not it's a false positive or it's true. So that's kind of at a large, high level, the three main areas where people typically get the most value out of, and those are typically the highest human repetitive tasks that we see.
Thanks, Damien. I have another question either of you can answer. What is the role of machine learning and AI when implementing security automation? Either of you can, provide some input there.
Omar, you want to take the first swing with
Yes,
the new
yes,
new
yes, yes.
assistant in place?
Yes, of course. So as I mentioned earlier, with respect to machine learning, our SERP security score is based on machine learning algorithms, because it takes more than a dozen parameters to come up with this score. On top of that, we have this assistant called Sarah, which utilizes generative AI capabilities to provide help to analysts perform their tasks quickly. So, for example, if an analyst received an incident, Sarah helps them write the remediation steps effectively. Not just that, Sarah is also able to list down individual steps across different phases of incident management lifecycle. Now, we have a separate webinar planned around this specific theme, but just to give you a high level overview, generative AI helps in different aspects of security operations while the analysis actually working. So, for example, incident is received, identified. Now, analyst wants to identify the steps that they should be taking against this particular incident. Sarah is able to list down all those steps across different phases of incident management lifecycle, right from analysis to remediation, lessons learned, and everything. On top of that, if you have an alert that is ingested, Sarah is also capable to suggest the playbooks that should be executed for that particular case. So, the advancements in AI and machine learning are even speeding up the process of responses and remediation within the SOC, eventually reducing the burden from the SOC teams, which are already burdened with so many tasks and so many alerts that are going on. Because it's not just about handling the alerts on their own, and then even follow up on the closure of those alerts. And now we are simply talking about security alerts. Then we have threat intelligence that is coming up as well. And then if they're also handling the vulnerabilities reported within the platform, they have to handle that as well. So every help matters. And AI and machine learning helps tremendously in different aspects of the entire incident management lifecycle.
Thanks, Umar. I have one last question for Umar. Can you tell me about how much time frame it takes to implement a security automation use case? And also, can you also comment on using a phase-wise approach when implementing security automation?
Yes, so during the presentation, I also mentioned about phase-wise approach. It's important to be realistic with your expectations out of the automation tool. Um, the better you plan for the automation, the more smoothly your use cases will be automated down the road. So the first step while integrating or implementing security automation in your environment is gathering the data. So the first thing that you do is you integrate with your SIM platform to start ingesting the alerts. And in parallel, you integrate with your threat intelligence feeds to gather the intelligence so that SIRP starts to correlate the things and start doing the prioritization for you. Phase-wise approach helps you um, with different phases and makes it easier to align your expectations. You go for the quick wins. So for example, right from the day one, if you expect that you will automate your phishing use case, it's not realistic. The first thing is you need to ingest the data. You need to identify where your team is reporting those phishing emails. You need to integrate that email inbox, ingest the data, and then identify the IOCs that you want to ingest. And then you also, at the same time, you also need to integrate with those security controls. A lot of time we see that SOC teams find it difficult to even allow the communication between automation tool and the security controls. So these are the challenges that you have to uh, work with. Your next question was how long time it does it take
Yeah.
to fully get the value out of an automation tool. Now it depends on the complexity of the environment, but we suggest to customer to align their expectation at around 3 months to 6 months, because during the first phase you do the deployment, you identify the security controls, you identify the use cases, you go for the quick wins. um, you first start with integrating your security controls, be it the ones from where you are ingesting the data, or be it the ones where you are sending some command to block something or initiate some response activity. So these are the first steps. After that, you start to automate your use cases. You design the playbooks one by one and then move ahead from there. you automate your first use case, then second use case, then third, and eventually you start to integrate your multiple use cases into one. So multiple playbooks start to work together in a sequence as well. On top of that, you identify, and it's not just gets stopped, the process just not stops at the automation part. Then you identify the reports that you want, the kind of cases you want to create, the type of communication or the way you want to communicate with other teams or even your senior management. So this is where you identify the type of reports, dashboards that you want to see how well your SOC is performing. Now, automating a process is one thing. The final step is to monitor and keep yourself up to date. You keep on identifying new use cases, you keep on maturing your processes. Now one process is automated, now you focus on other three processes. So you go step by step, phase wise approach, take one use case at a time, automate it, and then move ahead. So the maturity curve is not that steep, but it takes time, anywhere between 3 to 6 months. But even after 6 months, it requires efforts and constant attention, because again, security is also a process. You cannot expect, just like installing a firewall in your environment doesn't mean that it's going to start working by default. You need to configure the rules uh, to to block something, right? Same is the case with automation. You cannot expect to define a playbook and then you forget about the process. You identify new processes, you automate those processes, because a lot of time there is dependency on other security controls as well. If you are trying to integrate something but the other platform that isn't allowing you to do that, be it through the APIs or even the robotic process automation, we employ different mechanisms to do these kind of integrations. But in a lot of cases, we have to find workarounds to do the integration. In some cases, we also employ integrating the security control through CLI based commands. In some cases, we write the RPA based integrations. So you have to find these workarounds and it can take time. So you have to be realistic with these timelines and go for the quick wins. Start automating your best use cases. That's why the planning stage is really important. You identify, you plan, and you also have a look at your existing security controls. And that is the reason you sit with your consultants, the support of your security automation product, and ask them to guide you. So this is my assessment around the phase wise approach, as well as the timelines it takes to automate your processes.
I have one last question for Damien. What are the considerations in terms of regulatory regulations and compliance when you're implementing security automation? In this case, we take the US for as a key case. What are the things? What are things that you would consider?
So another great question. The platform itself has a lot of layered controls and reporting, and typically that allows you to easily align to whatever the security convention you're trying to subscribe to. So if you're a SOC 2 company, the application will fit into the framework, and then you have some concise reporting that validates that and speeds up the audit process as far as controls for users, access, meeting all of the criteria underneath that security control. And the same is true for largely any controls such as NIST, ISO. There's so many, HIPAA. It all comes down to the data and then how it's handled. And as I was saying, within the platform itself, there's some very rich, deep layers of controls that let you fit to the top line security control.
I see. Thanks, Damien. Well, guys, this is all the time we have. Thank you all for joining and participating in today's webinar. We hope that you found this session to be useful and knowledgeable. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out. We look forward to hearing from you and see you in our next webinar session soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Peace.